As a senior journalist, how do you see the freedom of press, in particular, and the freedom of opinion and expression of the people at large in your country?
Bangladesh, as a state, constitutionally guarantees the freedom of expression, subject to some restrictions, legally imposed restrictions. But in practice, Bangladesh has never been a place since its birth in 1971, an ideal place for truly independence of press, freedom of expression and opinion. Over the last more than 4 decades, there is no truly democratically oriented government in place. So all undemocratic governments, be it elected or unelected, be it civilian or it military, the first thing what they do is to try to suppress the public opinion so that there is no organized resistance getting shelled among the people, and no consensus is being built among the people against the repressive rules and regimes and autocratic behavior of the government. So today, particularly after the as a farcical national elections held in January this year, which was not contested by any opposition political parties, the government has proved itself to be an organization which is totally isolated from the people. Any government on earth, when isolated from the people, gets repressive, and first attack they resort to is the public opinion and the freedom of press. As under the circumstances, the journalists are being intimidated directly and indirectly by the government agencies as well as the ruling party hoodlums. Some television channel has been closed down, newspaper editors have been arrested. I myself has been subject to different kinds of intimidation many times. The positive thing is, despite this kind of government repression, there are journalists, there are civil society activists who still protest, of course, risking the life as well as the dignity of their own. But there is a struggle between the government, between the state, and the democratically-oriented thinking sections of the people, particularly among the intellectuals.
Please tell us about the public justice system of Bangladesh, especially in terms of ability and commitment of justice institutions to protect the citizens from crimes like torture, and to also provide justice in cases involving ordinary criminal things.
Public justice system, if you talk about this issue from the people's interest point of view, it has never developed. There are attempts, there are demand, there are talks about this, there are theoretical separation of power in Bangladesh, but public justice system has particularly been criminalized by the ruling class parties, with the successive governments. As regards public justice, I mean the poor people are the most dangerous victims of what I should say, that the miscarriage of justice, because public justice system itself is expansive, justice system is criminalized, and as there are rampant tortures in police custodies. There are now hundreds of cases of enforced disappearance. The extrajudicial murders are still there, but I don't see still the police, those and Rapid Action Battalion, which we called, notoriously been called RAB, and other agencies who take people in the name of disciplining them, get disappeared. And there are a lot of people, those who have lost their husbands, brothers, they have not been meted out justice. Police will not take, will not register the cases. Courts have, if there is no case, court cannot do anything. There are some public litigation cases. Government has been asked to stop extrajudicial murder, but government in the first instance do not admit that they are conducting extrajudicial killings. So there is a mess in terms of public justice system. So again, there are voices still in the society. We're talking about it. A lot of discussions are being taken place, and this is one of the reasons why we often see the government agencies are out to intimidate the voices who tries to mobilize public opinion against this kind of criminalized public justice system, and the state actors like police and RAB conducting enforced disappearance and carrying out extrajudicial murders. So they try to intimidate the public voices.
How is the political leadership of both the ruling party and the opposition parties affecting the independence and professionalism of the criminal justice system in Bangladesh?
Well, when political parties or the powers that be resorts to rule the country in violation of democratic ideals, in democratic norms, they cannot afford to ensure justice because they are the main agents at the helm of the state affairs who presided over the miscarriage of justice system. In that case, it is only natural for them to not to even worry about that, and they perpetually one thing that they do is to claim that everything is okay while there is nothing okay, and the ruling class people belonging to the opposition or the ruling party are the beneficiary of the state system, and rest of the people are victim of their benefit. In that case, when they preside over this kind of state organs, you can hardly expect that a justice delivery system will eventually benefit the people at large.
So to be clear, you're saying that the justice system doesn't serve the people, but it's serving the ruling elites.
This is a system created by the elite, run by the elite, and the elites are getting benefited out of it. Hardly people can claim that they can get justice from the state or any branch of the state. And there are examples that violence is there in the public life, and many psychologists and sociologists claim that people at times take laws in their hand because they do not have faith in the institutionalized public justice system.
Every regime changes the prosecutors and the state attorneys when it assumes power. What do they use to justify doing this?
Well, since different regimes over the past tries to control the justice delivery system to favor their own political activists, or to not to be punished by their own criminal activities. So they need their own people to be presiding over different state organs, including the judicial system. So when they have their own people, they get some privileges out of the law, and every regime takes the negative lessons from the previous regime, and they continue to do it.
What is the impact of the latest two constitutional amendments, the 15th and the 16th Amendment of the Constitution of Bangladesh, from the standpoint of people's right to justice and democratization?
Well, these are scandalous, because in one of the amendment to the Constitution, the voting rights, particularly the instrument of garnering general opinion, general will of the people that Constitution guarantees, has been snatched away, because there was a provision for a referendum of the people, which is the fundamental thing in a democratic dispensation, that in case of any changes, people will have the last say, and they will give approval or disapproval directly through their votes. This, in one of the amendments, this has been done away with. It's only to make sure that the parliamentarians who are supposed to make law under the Constitution can also change the Constitution itself. It's again that the political authorities try to control the judiciary in their favor is evident in one of the constitutional amendment that has been made by the Parliament is earlier there was a system that if there is any complaint against any judge for misconduct or their incompetence, this was to be seen and judged and given recommendations by Judicial Council. It's the independent Judicial Council headed by the head of the highest judicial institution called Appellate Division of the Supreme Court. The government, although many of the judges are being already sympathetic to the government or the incumbents, they are not ready to even give faith on the on the previous system. So what they have done has taken it into the hands of the government of the executive of the parliament, meaning the politicians who hardly represent the people in general, to take actions against the accused errant judge. This is being seriously criticized by the thinking sections of our people, because the purpose of the change of this law, the constitutional provision, is very clear, that Parliament want to control the judiciary, meaning they are acting against the democratic principles of separation of power, that judiciary, Parliament, and executive should be interdependent, but all of them are free to work independently. So they are curbing it, wanting to control the public justice system.
What are the priorities for establishing people's fundamental rights and for ensuring protection from torture and injustice in Bangladesh?
Priorities, if you talk about from the government's point of view, I don't think that the government has any headache, or even the previous government had a headache at all, to make sure that people get justice and institutions get better. So those who are among the people, thinking sections of the citizens, conscious sections of the citizen, consensus sections of the citizen, should have, I rather say, the priority to make sure that state is accountable and to mobilize public opinion to make the governments, state authorities to accountable. For that to happen, need a lot of discussions, a lot of debates, a lot of painstaking consensus building process among the people. And because in the countries like ours, in South Asian countries, in general, I must say, that no government does anything democratic until and unless they are put under continuous public pressure. So I believe that the priorities for the civil society actors, media, intelligentsia, should be to mobilize public opinion for democratizing the society, for democratizing the state, and thus pave the way for a democratic transformation of the society and the state.
Regarding any of the questions we've asked, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Well, we know that in our society and the South Asian societies, they're undergoing a lot of difficulties, a lot of undemocratic rules, and being subjected to torture, to miscarriage of justice, poverty, etc. But still, I believe that eventually people will win, because in all these countries, side by side with the state repression, state injustice, there are movements in some places already significant, in some places is going to be significant movements and social demand for justice, social demand for poverty eradication, social demand for democratic transformation of this family, state, and society. So I'm hopeful that if the people continues to pressure for that, eventually it is the people that win.